of you people who are enjoying summer in the Northern Hemisphere. I am Brandon Goldner. You have found We Like the Blazers, and with me, as always, it is the magnanimous, the magnetic, the magnificent, the magnifying glass-wearing person. But actually, I'm wearing glasses too because the sun is really bright and I'm sick, and I'm wearing sunglasses, so we're actually both wearing glasses. It is Ryan Whitledge. Hello.
What is up, sir? Yeah, you're wearing like a sweater thing over there. I'm being pissed that apparently AC is not in this office, and I have to figure that out before next summer.
Ooh. Yeah, that is something that didn't even come up when we were recording, because when is the last time that we dropped a podcast?
We recorded an excellent episode shortly after the draft, right before free agency. It was fantastic. Some of our best,
so good.
Some of our best work, easily, and
probably gonna get an Emmy for that lost footage.
Yeah, and then I went to bed and woke up, and Damian Lillard requested a trade, and so
Damian Lillard requested a trade, and then what did I say?
You cute summer little mouse said, let's give it a couple. let's hold on.
Let's wait a couple days, Ryan.
Wait a couple.
Let's just come back to this in a few days once he's traded.
And you know what's funny is that, you know, for all I know,
that it's September, that it's like the middle of September. Is that what's funny about this?
Well, for all I ever know is like 2 people may listen to this podcast, and
me and you.
Yeah, good enough for me. But I figured out a decent amount of our listenership based off texts that I got. Like Brandon Sprague, even like after 2 days after the trade request, he's like, "Yo, you and Goldner stopped doing a podcast?" I was like, "No," and he's like,
"You know what we were doing?
You gonna do one?" And I'm like, "Goldner wants to wait," and he just did facepalm emoji.
Ouch. Well, this is not my finest moment, Ryan. Not my finest moment. You know what we're really doing? We were really just being the elder statesman of the Blazers podcast community and stepping back to let other voices rise up. That's all we were doing, because there were plenty of really good podcasts about what the Blazers are doing, what they could do, what they're not going to do. There've been podcasts have been running over the summer, both local and regional and national. So I think there's been no lack of, Blazers Dame content in the meantime. It was, what I'm trying to say, it was intentional. Would anyone buy that?
No, I didn't even buy it. And I'm the other person on this podcast with you.
You of all people have to believe my sweet lies. Well, it is really good to see you. It is September. It's spring here. It is the end of summer there. Where do you want to start? Because on the one hand, there's so much that's happened. On the other hand, I don't want to bore people. So how do you want to light this firecracker? Actually, before that, sorry, the listeners demand to know, what's one thing that's happened in your life that you want to share? Because people care. People do care. I mean, you can get Blazers content anywhere. You can only get Ryan Whitledge content right here. What's been going on with you?
I'm an open book. I yell at the clouds all the time on Twitter. Anything new and exciting with me? I've finally been freed of the Nike campus, which a lot of people would say, oh, that sucks. But no, I mean, 2 years of my life spent on that campus in various job sites. And I'm finally free.
Did you raise a mission accomplished banner and stand behind it?
No. The battleship was already rented for that day, so I would have nowhere to hang the banner. But if it was available, I would have done it. But yeah,
nice. I mean, that is, to be fair and joking aside, that's huge.
Yeah. Now, though, I'm just a free floating leaf in the wind, and I keep getting sent to everybody's, hey, this thing went to shit. Can you please go be a senior statesman and go save it and be the adult voice in the room? Well, so yeah, I'm the firefighter now of the company. I keep bouncing around. So,
well, good work on that. I know it was a lot of work and probably a lot of pressure, and I think it says a lot about you that you were able to get it across the finish line. So nice job. Although unfortunately, you won't get to surreptitiously bump into LeBron James and Phil Knight anymore. That's a bummer.
I did almost run him over with my work van on my last day there.
That would have been interesting. Yeah. Well, we're glad that didn't happen. I ran my first marathon last weekend. That's what I did.
Nice. So, is that what brought on this cold? Is that why you are now near death?
I don't know, man. To be honest, like, it was a It definitely was a semi-traumatic physical experience. Near the end, the good news was it wasn't as bad for as long as I thought. Came in at 3 hours 47, not bad, first try. And nice. I was actually feeling pretty much fine until 3 hours 15. The longest run I'd ever been on in my life was 3 hours. And then it really got grindy. Couldn't really walk after that. Couldn't really move for a few days, but that's okay. So I've gone on exactly 2 very short runs this week, which is not my usual. And maybe, I thought it was pollen. I thought it was just me being tired, but no, I am sick. Non-COVID related illness. But yeah, that's why I'm wearing sunglasses now.
I do have one question because I saw a couple of the pictures that you threw up on Instagram from that. What was the little bra thing you were wearing? It looked like you were wearing a backpack.
Oh, that was for my breasts. That was to hold my breasts up. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a running vest. So they have these vests. I did my research on this one, and it's stretchy, and you can outfit it with a bunch of water, which I didn't do for this one. But if you're going to go trail running, you can put like a Camelback in the back, then it has in the front that comes with 2 pouches of water. The reason why I wore it, for warmth, because I knew it was going to be it was like 48 at the beginning and kind of windy. So like it's a little cool even for running. Mm-hmm. But B, the real reason, gel. When you run for that long, you need energy. I can't count how many people who I passed who were just walking, and it's not that their legs gave out or whatever. It's they had run out of carbohydrates. So I had a gel pack for every 30 minutes, and I brought 8. So didn't run out. So it was really to carry my gels. They weren't sloshed around my pockets. So that worked out really well. But yeah, that was the.
You mean you don't just like open a pouch and like eat a little granola bar as you're going?
I actually did. I had a power bar just in case I really needed it, or it was a Cliff Bar. I had something. I didn't end up needing it, but no, it was good. Like energy wise, it was actually really encouraging. But body wise, I need to do more long runs because it took a toll on me. But now I'm ready for an ultra marathon. Let's go.
Oh, geez. Just in time for you're going to get back and do a hood to coast, maybe a naked bike ride. Yeah, they're within like a week of each other. So like one could be, I think the naked bike ride you could use as training for the hood to coast.
That's true. You could do that. The only thing about hood to coast is I mean, everyone listening probably knows, but you do it in segments, right? So it's not like you're really running the whole thing. It's a lot of it's you riding in a van. And like, I don't know. I mean, that's
how restful is that?
Yeah, it is. But like, I don't know, like if I'm going to torture myself running, I want to be torturing myself running. There's a half marathon coming up here in town, here in New Zealand. I'm going to be doing that. So that's going to be great. And yeah, beyond that, I don't know what. I think the Portland Marathon is in, I think it's next month. So I'm going to miss that. That's too bad. But
shucks. I forgot to train for this one. That's another marathon.
You can still enter.
I'm just going to have to miss it. You know what? I can't just wing it. So
Ryan, they have a 5K walk run for people like you to just show up and drink beer and have fun. So you could do that.
Can we lower that number down to like half a K?
I mean, you could, I guess you could always just drink in public and walk around whenever you wanted. You don't need to pay an organizer for that.
I'll just go to Vegas. Done. All right.
Could do.
Vegas.
I will say
it's my adult marathon.
That's the only reason why. The kind of cool thing, to be honest, though, about organized runs is they usually have a photographer there. And so they did like 2 days later, they're like, oh, your photos are online. It's by your bib number. So you search for your bib number. And it was actually, this one was really cool. It was pay whatever you wanted. So they showed all the photos of me. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want these ones. And it's like, oh, suggested, whatever. And so I paid $10 for like 4 high res photos that I wouldn't have had otherwise. I thought that seems, I mean, I don't know. That seems fair-ish. I mean, they're making money and I'm paying somebody. So it was cool. They weren't trying to rip you off. Anyway, it was neat.
Nice. So
it's not neat. Yeah. Go ahead.
To get to the crux of this podcast. So
I needed the transition though.
You did. But so we're not gonna, because we assume if you're here, you're listening, you know the situation. You've probably yelled at all the Miami Heat fans just like the rest of us. But what I want to start off with is that how we will slightly recap it and get into where things stand, the same place. and how we feel about it. I want to know when you woke up, because for one, did I break that news to you? I feel as though I did. Okay.
Yeah, you did.
So for
which,
one,
I mean, fuck you very much. It's so annoying. It's
you
want to wake up to.
You live one day in the future from me, and I broke the news to you. So
they'd re-signed Jeremy Grant. That proved they were going all in, and they were going to keep Dame, and he wanted to stay. And then you text me that, and I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah.
So that's what I want to know. What were your first thoughts when you saw that text and then did the internet deep dive, like I'm sure everybody else did? Besides just smashing the delete button on that podcast file.
It got deleted so fast. I was like, can we release part of this? I'm like, why? No, I don't know. Like, I honestly feel pretty similar. And I think 99% of Blazers fans feel this way. Can you blame them? Because I can't. Like, yeah, and it was sad. It was still shocking, even though you thought it might come to that. It was a bummer when nothing happened on draft day. You kind of thought, it was more likely that he would leave. But then they re-signed Jeremy Grant, and you're thinking, well, I don't know. So I think it was pretty, now that I'm reflecting more, it was pretty emotional, actually, just because, he's been here for so long. And I have become, I'm curious what you think about this. I've become more of a Damian Lillard fan lately than maybe a fan of the team. Is that blasphemous?
I am not that type of fan. I think you and I have had conversations about this on the pod before, of that, or gotten to an internet argument about it, whatever. But I have always been, I have players that I love. I have players that I fall in love with. I have, players that, I would trade my firstborn child to keep them on the team. But at the end of the day, I'm a fan of the team and I root for the team. And as stupid as it sounds to be beholden to a piece of cloth and a logo, it's just always where my fandom has been. I've seen so many different iterations over my lifetime of the Portland Trailblazers, and I've had so many players come and go that I absolutely love. Top of my head in our youth, we just even Brandon Roy being the last one. Like, could you have imagined the Blazers without Brandon Roy during his time in his heyday? But the team's still here, the team still stands. So for me, that's just not something I can get behind or fully understand, but I think it's becoming a lot more popular these days and especially too in a little bit of a younger generation than us elder statesmen, but to be fans of players and follow these players. And you've seen it, like freaking, there was a credit card company for a while that ran an entire promotion on, like, if you bought a jersey and your player traded teams, that like they'd do some sort of refund or swap to get his new jersey.
It's interesting because, yeah, it is trending more that way, that people are less fans of teams, more fans of players. And it's really interesting. I hadn't thought about this before you brought it up here, but how sports for so long has been such an analogy for war and battle, and you pick a side and you support that side. And it still is. Sports are always going to be like that. My understanding, the history of sports is that it was like, preparing for battle. It was like skirmishes to get people ready for battle, and it became spectator sport, and then sports became its own spinoff. But like, it is interesting to think about for me, and maybe this is my red pulsating liberal heart just bleeding. My Bernie Sanders stickers are just flowing out of my voice as I say this, that maybe caring more about the individual players is really much more human, Ryan, because we're talking about individual connection, human connection. The reason why I care about Damian Lillard, yes, is because he plays basketball for the team that I follow. It's also because he's a good person. He's a good dad, and he has conducted himself in a way that, frankly, I look up to as a person, as a human in the world. Not all the time, not with all things all the time. And I'm not trying to deify anybody. But I wonder if that is part of it, that as we become more socially aware and more advanced, that like we're more willing to say, actually, what I care about is the human connection to the team and not so much the team itself.
Well,
Did I just
think
blow your mind?
No, but I think you did touch on a good point there, in that you have these, perceived or real or whatever, connections with these individual players. Well, so maybe that's where this changing of the landscape has come from, of where you're seeing more player rooting than team rooting, because think back to it when we were growing up and the generations before us, their sports intake was watching the games, whether that be live, on delay, in person, reading about the team with given individual players' performances, and everything was team-centric, team-oriented in the reporting. That all kind of, when you get into the Jordan era of the 90s, it starts getting more, hey, people are starting to get to know players more, marketable players or market players a little more. And now that we're in this social media age, there is this perceived closeness that people can have with athletes. They can follow their Instagram and go on their family vacations with them. They can see their kids being born. They can, they're doing these different events, but that's not stuff or access that was had before, when you saw a lot more team interest. And now you quote unquote, that you have these connections with these various athletes. So over the course of, this is my team, this is who I'm rooting for, as these guys come and go, I always make the joke of that, every free agent or every free agency period, I have to go through and I will literally make sure if anybody gets traded away from the team, I unfollow them. Call it silly. I don't keep you around if you're not on the team, but I unfollow them and I follow all the new guys. But so there's that bit of that social connection with it. And maybe that's a big part of the reason why there is this changing landscape. And with Dame having been around for 10 plus years, we've gotten in the entirety of this social media generation and this connected generation. He's probably, the first athlete, at least for Portland fans, where, we feel as though we know him and connect with him just as much as the team.
I think that's right. It's also true that Damian Lillard is like a uniquely cool person and good, effective leader. There has been virtually no sincere backlash against Damian Lillard for this trade request from Blazers fans. Virtually none. There's been some people at the very fringes who may be upset with him.
He took a knock in my book from this. He dropped down a peg.
Sure. Yeah, he did a little bit. But and then I think there are a handful of people who are reporters or have podcasts who then overemphasize the backlash that Damian Lillard's getting. He's not getting very much at all. And usually when players request a trade from their team, even though we're in a more player-centric fandom era, people usually back their team pretty quickly. Did you see anybody defending LaMarcus Aldridge when he wanted to leave the Blazers in free agency? Even a single solitary soul? Because I didn't. I think so. Some of this is that Damian Lillard is uniquely tied to Portland, uniquely easy to root for. I think
the best comparison we have right now is going on the East Coast. James Harden.
How is that wait, what? How is that the best comparison?
I mean,
in what way?
In the perceived or the perception of the athlete and how they are and who they are as a human being and how they've shown themselves to be in public, and then you have Dame, who has done this right most of the time, and then Harden. That's what I'm saying. I
had to lift my sunglasses. Say, there's no fucking way you're comparing Damian Lillard to James Harden. You're saying they're opposites. I see.
Correct. I'm saying they're opposites. That's the best analogy that
might want to clarify that next time, Ryan, before you get my blood pressure spiked. I'm sick, man. This virus. I have a cold. Okay,
I was just trying to
dozens of people every year. Okay,
I was just trying to help.
There are dozens of us.
Get that sweat gland going so you can sweat it out faster. That's all I was doing. But that's probably the best analogy. Because,
continue your point, which makes a lot more sense.
Harden's going on the scorched earth path, and calling his GM a liar and all this stuff. And he's got a reputation as that, being a bit of a diva, but it's not the reputation that Dame has. But they're both in similar situations and whatnot. So I think that's the best kind of example that we would have to that. So
that's fair. So I'm just really curious, or sorry, I'm not really curious, but just to set the table, how did we get here? Can you give me a 60-second recap?
Fuck no, this is the entirety.
But I wrote it in the Google Doc. I said literally, I didn't say seconds. I said literally 60 of how we got here.
The entirety, actually.
I can do it. Can I do it then?
From 2014 on, a series of piss poor decisions. That's my best summation. There you go.
Okay. That you could go, you have 57 more seconds, but sure.
I see the other 50. I give back my time. I yield my time.
Well, okay, fine. That's fine. But I think what I hear you saying, piss poor decisions by the team. The team failed to meaningfully build around a borderline top 10 player in the NBA.
Yes. And also
talent.
By team, I don't want to argue the minutia of ownership, general managers.
Yeah, I'm
coaches.
so off that. Why do people just whatever? I do it too. Yeah, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I get into those little conversations, whatever. And everybody can hear their things, have their sources, whatever. Reporters can say their stuff. Here's what I heard. Here's what I was told. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
When Neil O'Shea was in charge, it was all his fault. Now that Cronin's in charge, it's all Jody Allen's fault. And the reality is that it's the truth is that it's everybody's somewhere in between. And the GM, they're going to get some pressure from ownership and from Burkhold and from Vulcan. And that's true no matter who's in that seat, so long as the current owners own the team. So that's
from the time that LaMarcus left, they haven't been able to put a good competitive contending team around him. Yes. So I don't care how sacrilegious this could be, Paul Allen has a fault in this. So
no, of course he does. Of course. Yeah, obviously. This is a little gossipy, but do you make anything of kind of part of getting to this point? Is Damian Lillard has alluded to, he's been going through some personal struggles this summer. Do you put any value on that? Or you're like, nah, it's just, he hasn't really had a legitimate chance to win. Is that, do you even care about that?
Personal struggles, and he's doing some sort of reflection that's making him, want to try to chase this
rethink
now? I don't know. I wouldn't put that much salt in it, or that much in. I don't know that.
How much pepper would you put in it? No salt, but some pepper, a little bit of garlic powder.
No.
It's the drizzle of olive oil, maybe like a balsamic reduction in there.
If I didn't just have dinner like 2 hours ago, which was a delicious freaking ahi tuna steak thing, but
jealous.
No, I don't know if I buy that, because for one, if that was the case, if he was going through personal stuff, unless it was like, hey, I want to get a divorce, which that would catch everybody off guard. But personal stuff, you want to be close to your family, you want to be close to all that stuff. He just built this giant compound. I think some people speculate that could be part of it, maybe. What, that he's too close to his family and he needs a break?
No, that maybe him and his wife had had some disagreements or something, and people were I'm going too far into this. People were spotting that he wasn't wearing his wedding ring or something. He was hanging out with people, so it doesn't matter. But God,
that is one of the most annoying things in today's society. That's not even sports wise. That's just celebrity culture of trying to dive into this.
See, I'm not wearing my wedding ring, and clearly that means that Cassie and I are getting divorced tomorrow. But in reality, it's because I washed my hands and I put it next to the bathroom sink.
Just to let you know, it was a little humid here today, and my wife's hands tend to swell up in humidity. So guess who wasn't wearing her ring? So hey, I'm going through a divorce too.
We're all getting divorced. Hooray! Yay!
Round two for us. Let's go.
Jesus Christ! So here's actually it would be 3 for me. And for it'd be round. Well, anyway, okay. This is great. This is what people want. So, okay, here we are. The team didn't build a contender around Dame. Dame is living his life and he wants to leave. Basically, no one blames him, really. Maybe his reputation's taken a bit of a knock, but here we are. So where I wanted to start was this. What do you, let's start at the end, right? I want to start with the most likely outcome of all of the Damian Lillard stuff. And before we get to the most likely outcome, and then we can work our way kind of backwards and talk about details. I think that's a more interesting way to do it, frankly. And you didn't edit, so the most likely end outcome to me, the most unlikely end to this is that Joe Cronin is willing to just not ever trade Dame, to just not trade him, not honor his request, make him ride out the duration of his 4-year contract. I find that to be 0% likely. Would you agree with that?
I mean, ever. Forever?
So like,
correct. That is the most unlikely outcome.
But basically, the chance that Dame stays in Portland through the entirety of his current contract is as close to zero as we can get without it being zero. Do we agree on that?
Unless Dame changes his mind and legitimately decides he wants to stay for some reason, yes. But this is not a situation where Cronin is going to just say, this is my toy, nobody can play with it, you can't touch it, I'm going to keep it over here, and no, I will not share.
And Dame is probably not changing his mind. So we've agreed that option's probably off the table. So that's probably not going to happen. Mm-hmm. It would be great. I would love it. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's worth spending time on. That's the reason why I'm saying it. The second most unlikely outcome is that Joe Cronin is willing to not trade Damian Lillard all next season. So he's actually, if he would be willing to hold on to Dame through the trade deadline next year, I also find that to be very unlikely. What do you think about that?
I put that in more likely than not.
You think it's more likely than not that Damian Lillard will not be traded by the end of next year's trade deadline? You think he's going to be in a Blazer uniform at the end of this upcoming season?
After all 82 games, yes. I'd give it.
I was not expecting that at all.
I'd give it a decent likelihood.
Put a number on it.
You throw that in the. You're looking at that's like a 51% situation.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about it then. I wasn't expecting that, so we got to talk about it. How dare you? First of all, second of all, who gives you the right? Third of all, why do you have these thoughts? Like how do you see that? What in your mind would contribute to that happening? And by that, I mean, Damian Lillard is not traded even after the deadline next year. He ends this upcoming season in a Portland uniform. What would have to happen for that to come true?
What's the desperation for Portland to absolutely get something done by the trade deadline? What is their desperation?
Organizational clarity.
Can you still tank without organizational clarity? Can you still suck for the purpose of sucking while letting young guys play?
Kind of. Damian Lillard has proved that if he's playing, and now the NBA has these stricter rules about when you can and can't play.
Yeah, Damian Lillard has 7 fucking loopholes.
Sure, but Damian Lillard has dragged a good many bad teams to higher records than the franchise intended. And
well, I mean, if so,
I also
5 guards. We'll see what he can do.
Sure, but so that's a reality, and then the other reality is, it also organizational clarity at that point after the trade deadline comes and goes, and he's still here. At that point, if I'm Scoot Henderson and I'm Anthony Simons and I'm Shaedon Sharpe, I'm like, huh? And I don't think Damian Lillard will be sitting out of protest. Mm-hmm. I think part of what he actually has to do, we're going to talk about this later, I think part of what Dame has to do is to demonstrate that he still got it, that he is still very much in his prime, and that's going to help facilitate a trade wherever it may be. So that's what would get in the way of that to me. Is that not compelling for you?
It's for one of the things too, is that I'm operating under the assumption that it is still Miami or bust. And that is why I open that up to, is it all other 29 teams in the league? And sure, I'll put if it's all teams in the league, and I have to bet, will Damian Lillard be traded by the trade deadline? Then I'll bet that's like a 75% yes. But if it's just Miami, that's where I'm putting my 51% that he's still here at the end of this next season.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, let's say it's Miami and like one or two other teams. I honestly think really what needs to happen is there needs to be at least one other team legitimately interested in order for Miami to make their best offer, which is probably what Joe Cronin is waiting for, because I do think that he is sincere when he says he wants to get Dame where he wants to go, as long as it doesn't cripple the franchise in doing it. So,
well, the hilarious thing to me is that it's one of the things that always ends up getting skipped over and brushed over in all this conversation. There has been no formal offer from Miami to Portland. They've never made a formal offer. Miami.
I don't know how much I believe that, to be honest. Like, if you were to tell me that there has actually been no conversation between the two front offices, I find that insanely unlikely. But
I think that there has been a conversation, but I literally think it's a game of chicken where Pat Riley is, waiting for, basically saying, "Hey, Cronin, what do you want?" And Cronin's going, "No, you want Dame. Like, what are you going to give me?" And
I find it unlikely that the two teams don't know what the offer currently is. I know that's the reporting, but
I'm not saying that they don't know, that they haven't put those,
well, that's all that matters. Like, it's not,
but
like,
they haven't had the legit conversation of like, "Hey, here's what I'm willing to trade you for, Damian Lillard. Yay or nay?"
I think as long as you know. I think as long as you are aware of what the other team is offering and will accept, then that's the only thing that matters. And I think
exactly. And Cronin can put two and two together on what Miami would offer, and has no interest in calling them and being like, "Hey, do you want to talk?" And
right. I think, in my view, I could be wrong. I've been wrong about a whole lot. Right. We're going to record in a couple of days. So I'm wrong a lot, but Miami is not offering the full boat of draft picks and young players. That's what Portland wants. I think it's really that simple. So at any rate,
and even their full boat is not that impressive of a boat. I very much get the impression that like a large majority of this trade chatter discussion between these two teams has been through the media and not necessarily like, I would give like 1 to 2% of it is like happened between Cronin and Riley, and the rest of it is all through the media.
I mean, that could be. I don't actually know. I mean, I'm ignorant. I don't know the inner machinations of front offices, but that could very well be happening. So yeah, I want to go back to what you said though. You literally, Ryan, the person looking at me right now wearing an Oregon Ducks hat, by the way, traders, boo, having a beard.
Whoa, shots fired. Come on. We were just trying to give you your best chance to win a conference.
What about all the great history of uplifting student athletes of the Pac-12? Anyway, I'm kidding. All schools are greedy. They're all terrible.
I was going to say, don't get me started on nonprofits that are chasing profits.
You literally just sat there,
especially public funded ones.
You sat there and you looked me straight in the eyeball holes and you said 51% chance that Damian Lillard is still on the team to end next season. I want to give you a chance to repent, apologize, to grovel at the feet of anyone listening who thinks that number is far too high.
I'm sure there are plenty of people that think I'm an idiot for thinking that, but it's how I feel.
Okay, that's fair. Well, we talked about it, so that's all we can do. I would put that chance at like less than 15%, so higher than 0 and higher than 1.
Stealing my numbers. I go 5-1, you go 1-5.
14. There you go. 14%. I think the most likely end outcome then to the Dame stuff, I think the most likely outcome is that Dame is eventually traded between now and the next trade deadline somewhere. So would you agree that that's the most? Actually, no, because you said 51%. So you don't even think this is the most likely outcome? Like he's traded down the trade deadline?
But your stipulation, if it's to somewhere, then that is the most likely thing. If it's to Miami, it's 51%.
Well, let's unpack that then. So let's say that Dame is eventually traded between now and the next trade deadline. Where do you think he goes and why?
I don't know. Whoever has the best package.
I thought that you were like a Miami Heat insider who, is pissing off all of Blazers Twitter by writing Dame's nuts, even though you're supposed to be a journalist who adheres to the code of ethics. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, subtweeting
is that a Fentress dig?
So what do you think is the most likely outcome?
I told you it's if it's any other team in the league, he is most likely traded by the trade deadline.
So, okay, well, let's put it this way. If he is traded between now and the trade deadline, where does he go?
Whoever offers the best package.
So
whatever team gets desperate, whatever team has
here comes Brandon run. Coming to bail out Ryan yet again.
I don't know. If you want me to say a team, I'll say Utah. Fine, whatever.
Okay, Utah. Who else might be in the running for a, firmly in their prime / post prime point guard, owed a ton of money over a long period of time, really great locker room leader, all NBA player, top 75 player of all time, but he's kind of old, owed a lot of money. What other teams fit that bill? You got Utah, Miami, of course. Who else fits that bill for you? I have a couple in mind.
Well, all right. We can just go down the list. Celtics, Nets, Knicks, 76ers, Raptors, Warriors, Clippers, Lakers, Suns, Kings, Bulls,
slow down,
Pistons, Pacers, Bucks, Hawks, Hornets, Heat, Magic, Wizards, Nuggets, Timberwolves. Already said the Jazz, Mavericks, Rockets, Grizzlies, Pelicans, Spurs. There we go. I think I named every team.
Rip City Remix. You've gone too far. So I want to.
I just literally Google the list of every NBA team so I didn't stutter, and I could power read through that.
Oh, man. I tell you. So, okay. Utah, yes, outside chance. We could argue that, but let's just say, Lauri Markkanen is good enough to maybe if you slap Dame next to that. Also, they have a trillion picks. We've seen with OKC that at some point having that many picks, you kind of get stuck. You can't do anything with it. And the West is like relatively wide-ish open ? You have Denver and then you have Phoenix maybe, and then who do you really have at like the tippy top? So I some people have said no, not Utah, not ever. I don't think that's actually so crazy, but Utah, yeah, Miami, we've talked about that, people know about it, but Philadelphia, I want to talk about Philadelphia. Are you good for that?
Sure.
What if you're Joel Embiid? You just won MVP. And James Harden is, farting and sharding and pooping his pants, and he's having a temper
tantrum. I didn't need.
So Joel Embiid is sitting there like, what the hell? Wouldn't Damian Lillard pair up with Joel Embiid like pretty flawlessly? Like
when we wanted him in Portland, I think we went down all the reasons that would work great.
Totally. I actually find, and especially because Philadelphia needs to placate Joel Embiid, I don't think that they're in a position where they can just punt another year. You don't know how many years this guy's legs has. And he just won MVP. You have to make him feel like he's getting something out of all of this. If you're Philadelphia, if you're Joe Morey. So I'm actually surprised that the Damian Lillard Philadelphia thing hasn't come up more just in conversation.
I think it did right at the start of it, but then when Dame's agent went scorched earth and massively fucked up any leverage that his camp would have had in this situation, which I'll be amazed if Aaron Goodwin maintains being Dame's agent after this is all said and done, but that's a whole different topic. But after that,
he'll be judged once the trade is done. If Dame gets exactly what he wants and Portland gets screwed, then
I think
Goodwin is going to get praised.
I think if Dame still ends up being on the roster come training camp, then he's going to be a little pissed at Goodwin about that, because I think he'd much rather have this time or have had the time to get acclimated, get a family situation settled, get off-season workouts and all that crap in, and then come training camp, be ready to go and hit the ground running with a new team. So
yeah, I'm not an agent, but I do think that Aaron Goodwin way overplayed his hand. I agree with you. I think that the best way Dame could have gotten to Miami is by pretending like he would have gone anywhere. Yeah. But here we are. So Philadelphia, Miami, Utah. The other team that I have thought about is, does New York just pull a Knicks? And, I don't really, to be honest, I don't even know what they would have to trade that Portland would be interested in. But I guess my point with this, I actually don't think that there are a ton of teams who would benefit from a player like Damian Lillard and are willing to pay the price.
Well, that's always, again, the plus side of waiting. There's always the team that clicks that didn't think it was going to click, that didn't think it was, a piece away, that suddenly finds itself in this excellent position, and a Damian Lillard is just what they need to bring him over the top, that then has to, they'll massively overpay to get that, and bring and try to chase that championship. So, that's why, you end up seeing those things happen. But that's also why I say that if it is opened up to the entirety of the rest of the league and not just Miami, that it is more likely than not. Because there's going to be somebody that would need him, and would in that instance, if you're sitting there with an owner, as a GM trying to convince him, hey, let's give up all this because over the course of the season we think it can put us in title contention odds. Having that conversation now versus having that conversation in January when you have a sample size and you can see a finish line. If you just get that bit, a lot easier to convince somebody that, hey, we're going to overpay for this.
Speaking of teams who, may need that extra piece, what do you make of Giannis's continued comments about, I like Milwaukee, but I really want to go somewhere and win a championship, y'all? I don't really know what Milwaukee.
I praise him for the honesty. And, in hindsight, it's maybe something that I kind of wish Dame would have been a little more vocal about, and not as have dug his heels in on, I'm not saying that Dame lied about saying that he wanted to stay in Portland. He wanted to retire in Portland. It would have meant the most to him to bring Portland to championship. I'm not saying that he lied about that, but he did paint himself into a smidge of a corner to where he did not kind of leave himself any sort of out to be like, but I've also said this. He's
by insulating himself from all criticism for years. He's now opened himself up to more criticism in this moment, whereas Giannis has kind of leaked the door open. But now, if the time ever does come, he's going to get less blowback when he does make the request.
Exactly. Now, a difference is also that Giannis did bring Milwaukee a championship, so that also does earn
big
him.
Difference, and also is a 2-time MVP in his own right. But I guess my point is, do you see Milwaukee? Again, I don't really know what they would have to trade. I mean, I bet you they wouldn't mind, again, in the interest of trying to keep Giannis there, making a play for Dame and saying, you two play together. That fits pretty fucking well. Yes. Because it would. So I don't know. What do you think? Have a new coach? So I don't know. I'm curious.
That fit. Again, the thing too, and, Danny always likes to, mention it when these topics come up, of that, you can't just look at a team and say, hey, they have 5 bajillion picks, or they have all these picks that they can trade. You have to look at what the value of those picks is going to end up being. And a team with,
which is the problem with the Miami package.
Correct. And also in this hypothetical, Milwaukee package, is that a team with Giannis and Dame is going to be pretty well positioned. And so what's going to be the place of those draft picks? Where are you taking those from? And if you're going to say, okay, well, we'll take them later on down the road when they're going to be crap. Well, what good is a 2030 first round pick that's possibly a top 2 going to do Scoot Henderson in 7 years?
Yeah, totally. So, and honestly, just thinking through this, and maybe there's a team that's an obvious fit that I missed. There aren't that many teams that could really use someone like Damian Lillard again in his contract. So I do think we should all, as Blazers fans and just as people, recognize that that's true. There's a limited market for this very, very, very good player who could really help a team. So I wanted to get now to the start of this upcoming season. Do you believe that before we get into that, I want to take a quick break for our no sponsors. Instead of sponsors, we're going to have you listen to some, I don't know what kind of music it's going to be. I dig in the folder, I pull something out for a couple seconds, and then we'll be back. So we'll see you.
Legit elevator music, some smoothing instrumental.
Let's go. And we are back like the future. So, Ryan, we're going to do a lightning round. Are you ready for the... What is my hair doing? This is, it looks like a wig at this point.
You're channeling your inner Goku.
I tried to... Anyway, yeah. I'm sick. I am sick. It's probably just a cold. But I tried to I got my hands wet and I ran my hands through my hair to cool down my head, and now it looks really bad. I've somehow, despite my strong hairline, have made myself look like I'm going bald. So congratulations to me. I have figured out a new awful hairstyle. Here we go.
Somehow I'm catching strays here. All right, that's fine.
That is not
strong hair. Strong hairline. I have negative.
No ability to grow a beard. My metabolism is probably half of what yours is. I have to work so hard for my svelte marathon running figure. Okay, I gotta shut up. Listen, we're doing a lightning round. Are you ready or are you not?
Yes.
Okay. I have 7 questions ish. Try to keep these answers short. You'll sound off on them, and then I will too. Can I get a lightning sound effect? Where's Keith Feltner Smith when you need him? Okay,
no,
lightning round.
No, that is too many sound effects.
I think for this here it would work well. Question for you, lightning round: is Dame still in Portland come training camp? Yes or no?
Yes.
I also believe so. Some people have said that there's some pressure to trade him right now. I don't think there's
no pressure. The team can be crappy with him. They can be crappy without him.
Yeah. I think at some point it does become more urgent, but not yet. So we agree with that. Okay. Question. If he is still on the team come training camp, is Damian Lillard suiting up for Portland?
Unless he wants to absolutely torch his reputation, yes.
I agree there too. I actually also think that he needs to, because of the size of his contract, in order to regenerate interest from a team other than Miami, he needs to prove that he is still just as good as he was last year. So I think he will suit up.
Yeah.
Do you believe it is I guess we answered this, but is it in Dame's best interest to sit, or is it in his best interest to play if he's still on the team?
Best interest to play, both reputation wise and financially.
Devil's advocate, what if he gets hurt?
What if he got hurt?
Then everyone is screwed. The thing is, if Dame plays for there is some risk here.
Correct. And I absolutely hate this argument because regardless of
why do you hate it? It's a legitimate argument.
Because regardless of any situation, a professional athlete can get hurt on any given night. Should the Warriors sit Steph Curry because he could get hurt? I mean, they're not looking to trade.
And they did do that a lot last year.
Yeah, they're not looking to trade him, but, should they sit him until game 60 and then let him play so that he's fresh for the playoffs? I just hate the what if they get hurt.
I think it's not, I don't think in Dame's case it's the biggest concern in the world, but I think it's legitimate. I do think if he plays for Portland and he does get hurt, the Blazers are going to be in a really nasty spot. Okay. Does Miami have enough to trade for Damian Lillard?
Have enough? Do they have enough? Yes.
Do they have enough?
Is it good?
And enough means that Joe Cronin would say yes, because that's who the GM is currently.
See, I think they have enough, but I'm also at odds with so many people that want to always point to the Kevin Durant and then the backup of the Rudy Gobert trades as examples of what should dictate the market for Damian Lillard. Well, if
Rudy Gobert was a market aberration and KD is KD.
And if Damian Lillard was on the market at the same point in time that Rudy Gobert got traded, or Donovan Mitchell or whatever.
Right.
Correct. So I try to view these things.
Danny Ainge has good timing. He cashed in at the exact right time, and that deal literally reset the market for everyone else, including Portland. So too bad. Yes. I agree with you. Okay.
But yes, I do believe that Miami has enough to make a deal work without blowing up. And that's not me
No, I know.
tongue in cheek saying like, "Oh, well, Bam had a buyout of Portland." No, that's they can keep their core together.
Free Bam. Hashtag free Bam.
That was great.
No, I agree. I think if Miami didn't have enough in Joe Cronin's eyes to trade for Dame, we would have heard it by now. So they do. Okay. Who is the more desperate team, Portland or Miami?
Miami, by far. It's
Miami by a mile.
Well, and for as much as is being said about like Portland isn't doing anything, hasn't pulled off any more really signings of note or anything, neither is Miami. And
Excuse me, Blazers legend Kevin Knox is coming back to the team. How dare you besmirch his name? I can't even believe that.
I believe
this is Kevin Knox erasure.
I said of note, right? Yeah, I said of note. I'm just, yeah.
And again, you're just erasing him. I'm so disappointed that I'm now turning bright white. Oh, the light auto adjusted. Okay, yeah, the sun is coming in and out. It's very funny. Okay,
but yes, it's Miami by a mile because they lost pieces that massively helped get them to the finals, and they have no replacements for them. So their eggs are all kind of in this basket.
That's the thing I don't understand from some Miami Heat reporters and fans is that, first of all, Miami, your team had a historically aberrational season in order to get to the finals, which congratulations. I do think some of that is hashtag Heat culture. I do. I think some of why they overperformed is because of the culture they've set. And I do think they get some credit for that. However, it was historically aberrational for a reason, and your team got worse. So, we're just going to go to the finals without Dame. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not actually that good of a team. Sorry.
And may I point to recent Blazer history when the Blazers hung their hat on the 2019 Western Conference Finals and said, "Oh, we're good."
Yeah, it's different scale, but yeah, you're not wrong because now to Miami's front office's credit, I don't think they believe that they can just sit here and do nothing. I'm strictly talking about some reporters, some fans, some reporters of note, like some pretty well-respected Miami reporters be like, "Oh, Miami doesn't actually have to make a trade." Yes, you do. Like, don't even play. Okay, Miami is more desperate. Related to that last question, does Miami have an alternative to the Dame trade anywhere else in the NBA?
Yes.
What would it be?
Up the road in Harden.
Ooh, talk about the opposite of Heat culture.
Yes.
It would probably make whatever Dame trade came after that be really funky and weird, but I would love to see that just for the drama.
Yeah,
I'd be for the drama.
You got the Heat culture and Pat Riley. You got Jimmy Butler trying to get James Harden out of strip clubs. Yeah, it'd be great. But it's an alternative that's on the table. But how willing is Philly to do any sort of business or dealings with Miami when they're going to view each other as
rival?
Yeah.
We finally disagree. I don't think they have an alternative. I don't think James Harden is the same kind of player, the same fit, not the same. I do think that at some point culture and attitude does matter, and Dame does bring that. He fits Heat culture in that he's willing to work. He's willing to be a leader. He hasn't yet shown in his career, because he hasn't had the opportunity to, that he's willing to flex into someone else's system, really, except for when he was a rookie and had to flex into the Blazers system with Marcus Aldridge. But I don't think they have an alternative to Dame. You do. I don't. Very good. Question. We have a couple more and then we'll let everyone go. How did I write this? Let me read my own writing first. Okay. I know what I was trying to say, but how do I want to say this? Is a weird question the way I phrased it. How well do you think Dame is handling wanting to use his leverage to get to Miami, with the reality that him and his agent got warned by the NBA? So how well do you think Dame is handling the fact that he wants to go to Miami, but they just got warned for driving hard trying to go to Miami? Do you think that Dame is playing this well, I guess is really the question.
As I alluded to earlier, I don't think a lot of that was Dame. I think that was maybe his agent doing that on his client's behalf, and it backfired. And
you just said it though. I mean, it's on his behalf.
Correct.
It's Dame's responsibility at the end of the day because it's his agent.
I get that to some degree, but also players pay agents to handle this stuff so that they don't have to. So
true, but Dame has retained his services.
Yes. I think his agent overplayed his hand. And it's kind of one of those things where it's once the cat's out of the bag, you can't put it back in. And so statements were made, statements were leaked, whatever. And then it gets asked about it. He's kind of has to keep doubling down on it. And it ended up being what it is. I think the league, part of the reason that the league stepped in with that memo was because of Dame's history of loyalty and it being like such a part of his identity and character and in the league that Silver was looking at it like, okay, we need to nip this in the butt because this is a bad image for us because of him and his loyalty, his history of loyalty, if that makes sense.
It does. And it relates to my final question, unless you have other ones that you want to ask. But since all this has happened with Dame and his agent, James Harden went on the record and said, I'm not playing for Daryl Morey. He lied to me. He was really weird about it.
Went on the record. Wasn't that a kids camp in China? What are these little kids that paid had their parents pay like $350? Yeah, that is a weird time.
Just a really strange. Yeah. So, but that happened. The NBA didn't send a memo. NBA didn't send a memo. They fined James Harden for doing that. So it is related to the previous question. Do you think that James Harden being fined by the NBA changes Damian Lillard's internal calculus, whether it's about Miami or bust or whether it's about his strategy to get to Miami? Did James Harden muck it up for Damian Lillard?
Well, it definitely changes his strategy and his calculus because I think it was a little bit after that Dame did an interview, with Mark Spears, I believe, and he was specifically asked questions about his Portland situation, and he flat out just said, I'm not going to comment on the Trailblazers, or I'm not going to talk about the Trailblazers. And so this kind of also then goes back to your previous question too of, I definitely do believe that the league does to some degree differentiate a player's agent saying things, putting their name as an agent on the record, saying things about their client versus the actual player themselves saying something.
Although it's funny because by the letter of the NBA's law, the player or their representative are equally accountable. And I do think that the reason why the NBA sent a memo,
Dave wasn't on video saying, I fucking hate Cronin, get me the hell out of here now.
Right. There was the barest shred of plausible deniability. Even in the NBA's memo, they're like, what Aaron Goodwin told us wasn't exactly what we heard from other teams. So even that was a little shaky, but there was the lightest hint, just a zest of plausible deniability. Whereas in Harden's case,
if you may.
Exactly. In Harden's case, there was none. Do you have any other questions for the lightning round before we adjourn? Any final thoughts?
How many more guards can the Blazers get on this roster?
As many as their roster limit will allow, my friend. I don't know what's going on. I mean,
here's my question: who gets traded first, Dame or Nurk?
Cheating answer, both at the same time. I think that's probably, we didn't really go into machinations. I think part of what the Blazers would like to do is get off Nurkic's money, despite Nurkic showing up in social media. And you think the best way for them to get off Nurkic's money is to make that damn near an $80 million trade deal? You combine their salaries, because at that point you're taking back. I think you'd have to take back both Lowry and Hero, and you'd have to find somewhere to route Hero. You'd probably, Lowry only has a year left. Nurkic has a handful of years left. That would be the reason why. I don't know. I mean, at some point,
Lowry, Simons, Sharp.
As you're looking that up,
Grant center. Then I'm fine with that.
I'll play center. How many guards can they have? I don't know. At some point, the team has to go from wherever they are now to we are developing Scoot Henderson. And I would love to talk about Scoot Henderson, and we will do that on a future episode of We Like the Blazers. If you want to reach out to, is this a good time to end?
Yes.
If you want to reach out to us, you can always do that at weliktheblazers@gmail.com. You can find us at weliktheblazers.com. Find me at GoldenPDX on X.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. Not the porn site.
Can we just please call it Twitter still?
Dude, I'm not calling it X. I'm not calling it X.
I mean,
and fuck him. I'm never going to use it as a payment method.
Find me on Twitter at GoldenPDX. Find him on Twitter at The Witty Ryan. For Ryan, I'm Brandon. I appreciate y'all. I powered through. This is my Michael Jordan flu game. See y'all next time. And until then, go Blazers.
Go Blazers.